All in a day's work.
We had some giraffes coming to Jurong Port.
I'm very scared.
Singapore is a maritime nation. Our maritime industry contributes 7% to our GDP. Ships from all corners of the globe converge here, bringing goods and connecting us to the world.
But our ports are not just a gateway for trade. Jurong Port has played a huge role in building Singapore.
Jurong Port started operations in 1965. That was the same year that Singapore became independent. So we were started to help build Singapore into this modern city because we needed a lot of construction materials at that point. Whether it's steel, whether it's cement, and all the other things that needs to go into buildings. So that's where Jurong Port comes in. We were the entry point for all these construction materials that needed to come into Singapore.
So besides construction materials, do anything else come through Jurong Port?
Yeah, all kinds of things come to Jurong Port.
Okay.
Anything that cannot go into a container will come to Jurong Port. We also have live animals coming through Jurong Port.
Wow.
We have live chickens, we have live pigs that are imported from Indonesia. And when Mandai Zoo needs to bring wild animals in, they also use us sometimes. We had some giraffes coming to Jurong Port because giraffes cannot take aeroplanes, so they had to come via ship, and that's why they came through us.
So how do you see Jurong Port supporting Singapore's growth in the coming years?
Well, I guess the most important thing that we are doing is that we will be building Singapore's first integrated construction park here in Jurong Port. The idea is to bring downstream processes like the manufacturing of ready-mix concrete, the assembly of prefabricated modules closer to the sources of raw materials that comes in via Jurong Port. I think by putting everything in close proximity, we're confident that this will help the construction industry save a lot of time and a lot of money. Just like the rest of Singapore, Jurong Port looks very different from what it did in 1965. But one thing I guess has not changed is that we are the primary entry point for all the raw materials that Singapore needs for its growth and development.
So we're actually inside the CSUs, which is the continuous ship unloader. So this is one of the CSU cabins that we have. So inside the CSU, as you can see, it is all air conditioned and enclosed, so that it is to protect all the operators from all the harsh environments, the dusty environments. Okay, so currently what you see here, you see our CSU, our continuous ship unloader, actually discharging the cement from one of the vessel hatches over here.
Right.
So we are actually using the screw conveyancing system, as you can see from the vertical conveyor of this unloader, right through this horizontal and all the way through our conveyor belt system and into our consignee silos. So the vessels that comes into Jurong Port varies from somewhere around 19,000 tons to at most 50,000 tons. So let's say this particular vessel here, which is about 27 to 30,000 tons, we can actually supply up to 2,430 4-room HDB flats. Yes. 2,430 HDB flats. For 4-room HDB flats, yeah.
Wow,
Yes.
okay. Well, that really puts it into perspective.
Yes.
And all these are used in the constructions of our houses and our roads in Singapore?
Yes, that is right. So they're used for houses, HDB flats, our shopping malls, our bridges.
And so has it always been this way since independence?
Okay, so back then, earlier on, all the individual cement operators or importers have their own silos and also their own waterfronts. So back then, in the early 1960s, that was when the cement, on board the cement cargoes, they were actually packed into bags and then transported via the lorries into the respective cement factories.
So this is a more effective system that you have right now.
Correct. And as you can see, these 3 CSUs, they are actually introduced somewhere about 3 years ago. So they actually have the capability to discharge up to 1,000 TPH. Okay, actually what we're seeing right now is actually we are shifting out the unloader. It's because due to the rain, because the cement cargoes, they can't be in contact with rain. They're very sensitive, right? So what we're seeing now is that we're actually stopping the operations and closing the hatch to actually resume later on.
Right now
we are actually at the wharf side, overlooking at the whole RMC ecosystem, the aggregates transfer.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are aggregates?
Okay, actually right now I have it here. So aggregates are sand and granite.
Okay.
So it's an important ingredient for the concrete batching.
What is concrete patching?
Concrete batching requires powder, cement, aggregates, water to make fluid concrete. Sometimes additives are also added, but basically in layman terms, we are looking at like a baking process. So baking powder, flour, eggs and water are, come together to make cake.
So it's one component of the fluid concrete.
Yes, that's
And
right.
fluid concrete is what is used to build our homes.
Oh yes, definitely.
So everything we see behind us, those are all the aggregates.
Yes, they are the aggregates. So all this are transferred to our RMC ecosystem.
Alright, so how was it done before this current conveying system?
Okay, so before it was implemented, aggregate transfer was actually labor intensive and truck intensive. So the vessel will actually have to transfer the cargoes to the barge. From there, the barge will actually use wheel loader to transfer the materials to the truck. Then the trucks will actually send to the nearby batching plant or storage plot.
So does it cut down the number of steps basically that takes from point A to point B?
Definitely. So over here at JP, we have deep water perf. So it eliminates the double handling. Let me show you our conveying system.
So how does it get from where we were just now to here?
Okay, so actually you can see our balancing crane.
Yes.
To actually scoop the aggregates and transfer to the shutter. And from there, through the conveying belt, it will actually help the importers to transfer the aggregates to the storage plot as well as the batching plant itself. It actually helps us to eliminate more than 1 million truck trips.
Wow, 1 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, this whole system make it greener.
And more efficient.
Yes.
It is really cool to see this in person because we're just at the other side and Linda explained to me that it's all connected. So what we see over here, this was actually the 5 slide-looking pipes that we saw in the previous place. And she said that it has totally eliminated the need for any trucks in between. So yeah, it's really, really cool. I even asked about what the next steps towards sustainability are. And she did mention that if I look outside, there are solar panels, so they are employing these things for solar energy.
So working with Jurong Port really has its advantages. So the material comes in non-stop and allows us to also work 24/7 as we have many customers who operate all night long.
Oh, okay.
So that's a big advantage having Jurong Port as a partner for us. So this is the material that we get from Jurong Port that comes in through their conveyor.
Yeah.
Then that goes into Island Concrete's conveyor. So under here you have a very long conveyor belt all the way.
Right.
That gets transferred to a bucket elevator that is up here, and that will go all the way to the top.
Oh, okay. So is that one of the ways in which it has made everything a little bit easier or more efficient?
So this way we use the wheel loader less, so that way we can also use less diesel because a lot of it is mechanized.
Ah, okay.
In a conventional batching plant, the wheel loader would be working a lot harder and consuming a lot more diesel.
Right, okay. So similarly, it's like a more sustainable way of doing it.
Yes.
In that sense.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
While Jurong Port continues to play a key role in Singapore's development, much of our daily lives depend on the goods that come in through these ports.
The port has always been an important part of Singapore's identity, and since independence, it has continued to play a very, very critical part in Singapore's development as well as industrialization. So in the early decades post-independence, the port was critical in bringing in raw materials that were important for our industrialization drive, made sure that we were able to build factories, able to build our economy. In 1972, we also made a strategic bet by building Southeast Asia's first container port in Tanjung Pagar. Since then, as shipping grew, we have added new ports and expanded our operations in Keppel, in Pasir Panjang and Brani, and now we are working to develop a new port in Tuas as well.
So why do we have so many different ports in Singapore?
So it is about meeting demand as well as building ahead of demand. But when shipping continued to grow, we decided to add more ports. And now we are looking ahead further to make sure that we are ready for the future. So we are now working on building a port in Tuas, in the western part of Singapore. We will be able to consolidate all our port operations in one location in Tuas, and it will be the world's largest fully automated port.
So ports really do affect our access to things day to day in Singapore.
Yes, it's true. The ports are actually the silent engines that underpin Singapore's economy as well as our nation. Yeah. So everything that we eat, everything that you wear comes in through our ports. There's nothing I can think of that doesn't come in through our ports. For example, during COVID, the ports were very, very important because we had to bring in medical supplies, masks, and food supplies, and all that came in through our ports. So the port has in fact been critical to Singapore's economy and been the gateway for us to the rest of the world.
I think I've learned a lot from the people that I've spoken to. I've realized that a lot of the things that we rely very much on the things that come through our ports. It is very important in Singapore, not just in terms of for business, but also for our day-to-day and our quality of living as well.